Hi, I'm Daniel from EDELRID, and in this video I'll explain the EDELRID Literider ledge. The Literider ledge has a basic size of 2 by 1 meter and weighs 3 kilograms. The frame is made out of 7075 T6 aircraft aluminium, and the oval cross-section of the tubes ensure optimum strength utilization, and the assembled frame cannot twist, as is the case with round tubes. The floor sheet consists of a polyester Dyneema hybrid textile. A thin polyester fabric on the upper side protects against abrasion. The underside consists of lengthwise and crosswise Dyneema fibers laminated between two mylar films. This means the material has virtually no stretch, making the ledge extremely comfortable and stable. On the wall side of the floor sheet, we use an extremely abrasion-resistant polyamide webbing, which is also used in our harnesses as abrasion protection. The suspension straps are also made of a polyester Dyneema composite webbing, which ensures maximum strength and abrasion resistance. The straps are adjusted using a 10 mm aluminium slide block buckle, and the suspension can be divided into 3 anchor points, allowing the ledge to be hung on the wall in a much more stable position. The central fin is split in two, creating a small recess for the hips in the center of the surface when lying down, and has 2 small Velcro pockets. The ledge comes in a matching haul bag, which is protected against abrasion with tarpaulin trimmings in the exposed areas. We highly recommend practicing setting up the ledge several times before using it for the first time in a big wall. Initially probably standing on the ground and later hanging from an anchor. The best way to set up the ledge is as follows. The ledge is attached as directly as possible to the central anchor with its suspension, whereby care can already be taken here to sort the black straps on the wall side and the blue straps on the air side. The haul bag is removed and stowed away. Don't worry, all the components of the ledge are attached in such a way that nothing can get lost. The floor sheet is unfolded and the straps are sorted. At this point, care can be taken to place the floor sheet side with the green abrasion protection towards the wall. The longitudinal rods are put together in the center, making sure that the straps run straight and are not wrapped around the tube, and that the knots at the ends of the straps are all pointing downwards. The longitudinal rods are inserted into the cross rod on the fixed side, and during this process it is important to ensure that the 2 longitudinal rods are positioned as precisely parallel as possible, otherwise the corners cannot be threaded. This process is best carried out by 2 people, especially in strong winds. If possible, without tilting the longitudinal bars, the next step is to place the crossbar on the adjustment side onto the longitudinal bars. Next, the floor sheet is pulled towards the adjustment side, and the buckles on the underside are pulled taut alternately. The finger loops can be used for support when pulling. The ledge now looks finished, but must not be stepped on under any circumstances, as it only reaches its final stability when the spreader bar is inserted. This bar is best threaded from the air side, from above, through the outer opening on the floor sheet and positioned on the wall side bar using the recesses provided through the wall side opening in the floor sheet. The spreader bar can then be snapped into the air side position on the longitudinal bar with a short downward tuck. The spreader bar should sit as orthogonal as possible on the longitudinal bars. The 6 suspension straps are then adjusted, making sure that all the straps are adjusted as precisely as possible so that all the corners are on the same level. Otherwise, the fits of the corners will wear out quite quickly. Once all corners have been precisely adjusted, the ledge can be entered in the center. If the ledge is stepped on from the side, a rocking effect will occur. Take care, no component of the portal ledge or the associated fly has been tested or certified as personal fall protection equipment. A self-belay must therefore never be carried out using components of the ledge or the fly. The ledge itself is also not protective equipment against fall from a height. Independent self-belaying must always be guaranteed, even while sleeping. Ideally, you should remain tied into the climbing rope and adjust the self-belay knot to a suitable length. Alternatively, dynamic self-belay slings can also be used. Self-belaying with pure webbing slings is completely unsuitable due to the lack of energy absorption capacity. If a second person wants to enter the ledge, a good coordination between the 2 people is required, because the center of gravity of the load must always be centrally located below the suspension point. The further out one person stands, the further out the other person must stand. Ideally, you should practice these movements of entering and leaving, changing places, standing up and lying down with your partner before the first use in a large wall. If several suitable anchor points are available at the same height or a similar height, the parts of the suspension can also be sensibly distributed over the other anchor points. This considerably reduces the rocking effect and the latch hangs much more stably. The place where a porter latch is hung for the night should be chosen so that the helmet can be removed without hesitation, ideally under an overhang. A helmet no longer provides adequate protection from falling rocks when lying down. The easiest way to disassemble the latch is in the following order. First, adjust all the suspension straps to almost the longest length. A short piece of remaining straps makes it easier to use the next time you set it up. The tension can then be removed from the floor sheet using the 3 buckles on the underside, making it much easier to remove the spreader bar afterwards. The crossbar on the adjustment side is pulled out and then the crossbar on the closed side is pulled out. Separate the center connectors of the longitudinal bars. Now it is best to place the spreader bar across the center of the floor sheet and fold each of the 4 corners into the opposite center. The protruding triangles are rolled up and the latch is put into the haul bag. Ideally, you should leave the central carabiner hanging out of the top of the bag and hook it in while hauling. Uneven wall surfaces are probably the biggest challenge when setting up the latch. However, finding the ideal spot and setting it up perfectly will be rewarded with a much better night's sleep and a longer lifespan for the latch. If the latch rests on a bulge, it will sway and rock and sleep is out of question. In this case, the latch can be positioned higher or lower, or material can be jammed between the frame and the rock. If the latch only rests on the sides or even only on the corners, a very high bending load is placed on the frame, which can even lead to the frame breaking. Also then, the latch must be placed higher or lower or somewhere else entirely. Ideally and most stably, the latch hangs on a completely flat surface or on 2 contact points after around 1/3 to 1/4 of the total length. If single straps are set too short or too long, the frame will twist under the load and the tube connectors will quickly wear out and lose stability. So far, we have found that the latch can sway lengthwise. However, if you hang it, for example, on a 60 cm sling between the anchor point and the latch can also sway in a transverse direction. It is therefore best to attach the latch as close as possible to the anchor point. If the latch is to be hauled open between 2 pitches, it is advisable to do this in a flag haul. The latch is attached to 2 corners of 1 longitudinal rod on the haul line above the haul bag in an upright position similar to a flag. The newer generation floor sheets have a small loop at the corners for this purpose. However, a short cord loop can also be simply girth hitched around the frame. As already mentioned, the floor sheet has extremely low stretch. This makes moving on the latch incomparably comfortable. However, the floor sheet and frame under enormous tension and minor damage to the sheet can cause it to tear further. For this reason, no sharp objects such as knives, sometimes cam wires, crampons, rock crumbs or splinters should come into contact with the floor sheet. Damage cannot be ruled out, especially if you step on sharp splinters of rock when the latch is taut. For the same reason, you should also avoid walking on the floor sheet if it is lying on rough or abrasive surface. For an ideal fit and attachment to the latch, we did cut some foam mats to the right shape and glued some velcros to the mats in several places. And this allows the mats to be attached in such a way that they are not immediately blown away in the wind. If the latch can only be fixed at 1 anchor point and you still want to achieve good stability against rocking, or if the latch is to be left assembled and there is a risk that it could be moved and damaged by strong winds, it is recommended to tension the latch downwards. This requires an additional anchor point centrally below the latch. A short prusik can be used to attach a carabiner to the center of the spreader bar, and, for example, a 120 cm sling can be used to set up a simple pulley system and fix the latch downwards. Friction occurs between the aluminum surfaces of the rod connectors during assembly and disassembly, which can damage the anodized aluminum coating. This can lead to corrosion on the aluminum surfaces, making assembly significantly more difficult. The surfaces of the plug-in connectors can therefore be lubricated with commercially available machine oil or grease to protect against friction and corrosion. If minor damage to the floor sheet occurs, commercially available duct tape has also proven to be an ideal repair method. Most adhesive tapes adhere extremely well, especially to the molar film on the underside of the floor sheet. The EDELRID Literider latch, the lightest frame latch on the market and an absolute game changer not only for long big walls, but also as a belay latch when projecting hard multi-pitch roots.